All right, let's talk about something we all do constantly, filling out forms on the web. They feel like the front door to pretty much everything online. But what we never see are the locks on that door, or the lack of them. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the hidden rules that make that door either a welcome mat for attackers or a genuine fortress. You've done it 1,000 times, right? You type in your name, your email, you hit that submit button, and poof, your info just zips off into the internet. But where does it go? Is it safe? What's stopping someone from messing with it? That's the mystery we're going to solve. So here's the deal. On one hand, you have the hope. You click submit and you trust that your information is being checked, validated, and tucked away safely. But then there's the reality. And the reality is that without the right rules in place, that simple little form can become a weapon used to break the entire system. The stakes are way higher than you think.
Okay, so let's start with what we all know and see. Let's talk about what makes a form feel good. That polished surface that just makes sense.
You know what I'm talking about. Some forms are just helpful. They feel like they're on your side. They guide you, they stop you from making silly mistakes, and they just make the whole process completely painless. And that helpfulness comes from these really smart little tools. Instead of a blank box for a date, you get a little pop-up calendar so you can't mess it up. Or maybe a color selector so you don't have to guess. You might see a number-only field, or a slider for a range. These things aren't just for looks. They're designed to prevent errors from ever happening. So where does all this helpfulness come from? Is it some incredibly complex high-tech wizardry? Well, not always. The first secret is actually some magic that's already built right into your web browser. Yeah, this isn't some dark art. A lot of the time, making a form smart is as simple as adding one single word to the code. I'm not kidding. Check this out. The developer adds the word required and boom, you can't leave that field empty. They add type equals email and your browser automatically checks for an @ and a domain. You can set character limits, number ranges, or even a super specific pattern for something like a postal code, all with just these simple built-in attributes. And the best part for you, the user, is that you get immediate feedback. If you type something that breaks the rule, the browser itself stops you with a little pop-up message right then and there. It tells you exactly what's wrong before your data even leaves your computer. But, that built-in browser magic can be kind of generic. What if a developer wants to get a little more creative or provide a more specific error message? Well, that's when they reach for their own toolkit. And that toolkit is usually JavaScript. While the browser's built-in stuff is a great first step, JavaScript lets developers write their own rules from scratch and, more importantly, create custom error messages that are way more helpful. So instead of a boring, generic error, a developer can make the form say something much more direct, like, hey, I am expecting an email address. That little bit of custom tailoring can make a huge difference in the user experience. Okay, so up to this point, everything sounds awesome. We've got helpful forms, custom messages. It's all designed to make our lives easier. But now we get to the big secret, what I like to call the validation lie. This is where we learn the massive difference between something being helpful and something being secure. So let's be clear, all those things we just talked about, the HTML attributes, the JavaScript messages, they are fantastic for creating a great user experience for an honest person. They prevent simple mistakes and make everything feel smooth. But when it comes to stopping a real attacker who wants to do real damage, all of that is, well, practically useless. It's like putting up a friendly "please keep off the grass" sign instead of a 10-foot wall. Here's why. There are two totally different kinds of validation. Client-side is all that helpful stuff that happens in your browser. It's great for UX, but it can be bypassed. Then there's server-side validation. This happens on the website's computer after you hit submit. And when it comes to security, that is the only check that actually matters. This is the absolute golden rule of web security. It's stated perfectly right here. You have to work from the assumption that any information coming from a user's browser could be hostile. You simply cannot trust. And the reason is shockingly simple. An attacker isn't going to use your pretty web form. They're going to completely bypass it. They can ignore all those helpful rules and send a handcrafted, malicious piece of data directly to your server. And that leads to one of the most classic and dangerous attacks out there, code injection. This is where an attacker crafts a piece of data that looks like a normal username or comment, but it's actually a secret command designed to trick the application into running it. Here's how it works in a classic SQL injection attack. Step 1, an attacker puts some malicious code into a login form. Step 2, that code zips past all the browser rules and goes straight to the server. Now, here's the scary part. Step 3, the server's database is tricked. It sees this code and runs it as a command. And just like that, step 4, the attacker is in. They have full access to private data. So, how in the world do you build a form that's both helpful and secure? Well, that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the architect's blueprint for an unbreakable system. The real solution is a layered, modular approach. It's not one single check. As you can see here, the data comes in and it's first validated on the server. That's the big, important security gate. But it doesn't stop there. After it's been validated, it's then encoded separately for wherever it needs to go, whether that's a database, another system, whatever. It's a series of checks and balances at every single step. So let's break down the complete strategy. First, you absolutely use client-side validation. It's essential for a good user experience. But second, you rely on server-side validation as your fortress to protect against attacks. The rule is always validate data where it's defined, in the core logic. And then, this is so critical, you always encode that data right before it's used, which neutralizes any malicious code and prevents it from being run as a command. So, the next time you fill out a form online, ask yourself, are you just looking at a simple box? Or are you looking at the front door to a digital fortress? The difference is totally invisible to you, but when it comes to protecting your data, that difference is everything.